Hi everyone. Okay, so just to check, can you guys hear me?
Yes, Seema.
Okay, Mantu, your video is acting a little funny. Okay, so you'll have to tolerate me a bit with this really heavy lighting today because for some reason my power has decided to act up. So everybody who's been waiting really patiently there, thank you so much. Janvi, Nurul, and I think we have Vibha. So let's go ahead and start. All right. So on 25th January of 2022, the College Board announced one of the biggest changes that would be coming in the SAT. That's in 2023 for the international students and in 2024 for the American students, which is the SAT is going digital. Now, while the testing integrities kind of remain the same, there is a big overhaul in the testing format, the question styles, and the approach. This webinar, Decoding the Digital SAT, is the test really getting easier? Will give you a head start on the digital SAT preparation for your March test and any future test that you would actually take. And there is no better people to talk about it than our academic team that made Manya, the Princeton Review, the first test prep to globally launch the first digital SAT course. Today, to help you master this new version of the test, we have our master trainers, Raji and Mantu Kumar. So talking a little bit about Raji. Raji is a brilliant senior trainer and a passionate educator. Besides being a compassionate human being who has 2 decades of experience in higher education, she's devoted to bringing that eureka moment into her students' lives. And armed with a postgraduate degree in English and an innate skill for breaking down the most complex concepts into smaller, palatable bits for her students, she makes sure that her students have fun learning all the concepts while they get their higher scores. So, to really think about it, more than 45% of our students have scored 1,500 and above on the SAT. And it is no wonder that she's one of the most sought after trainers in Manya. Welcome, Raji.
Good evening. Thank you, Seema. I'm honored and I don't know. That was too much.
It's just great to
But
have you.
yes, it's great to be here too. And a warm welcome and a good evening to all present here. Yes, Seema.
Thank you, Raji. Mantu Kumar. Now, talking about him, he's not only a highly impactful master trainer, but he's also a multifaceted individual with a dynamic personality who believes in taking the road less traveled. Now, with his ideology, he has paved a path of excellence for himself and played a pivotal role in facilitating the journeys of thousands of UG students in their own unique way. He is simple, and his insightful sessions are sure to keep all his students enraptured while taking them to their higher scores as well. So he has got also a brilliant track record of 1500 above in the SAT in the past, which also makes him one of the fit people to really talk about the digital SAT as it's moving forward. He delivers his classes with the highest spirits and adds unique flavor to them with his innovation and humor. One of the millions of things that students actually love about him. Welcome, Mantu.
Thank you, Seema. Pleasure. Good
Right.
evening, all. Welcome. Welcome to the session.
It's absolutely great to have you both here. Now, let's actually get things started. So the first thing, and I'm sure that one of the things that every student really wants to know about before you just deep dive into all of the details is from a bird's eye view. Raji, can you help us understand exactly what is changing on the digital SAT?
Okay. So first and foremost, yes, the SAT is going digital. That's the big change that we have. And secondly, we have this cutting down of passages, which actually was a big I would say, threat, or I would say, giving the jitters to many students. Passages are much shorter. That even makes the test time, whereas it was 3 hours and more earlier, now it's just 2 hours, 14 minutes. And the verbal section actually is just one section now. Earlier, it used to be, a reading section first, and then the writing section next, followed by the math. Now it's just one verbal section and one math section. And yes, I will be answering all your questions, Vibha, slowly. Don't you worry. Okay. And for the math, of course, calculators are allowed throughout the math section. There is no separate calculator section as such. Okay. Throughout the math section, you are allowed to use the calculator. Students get more relevant information during the test because all that they need to answer the question is right in front of them. And hence, they need not actually read through a lot and then get ready with an answer. They have it right there, all relevant information with them. And yes, the test taking experience itself is going to be more secure because it isn't actually online. Okay. It is just digital. So there's not going to be any net issues. They're going to still be proctored. They're still going to be in centers. So that's going to be really more secure a test. And yes, the faster score getting. So earlier we used to wait a fortnight and more for the results. But now, since it's going digital, you'll have your results maybe within a week. All right. So that's a lot of change on the digital SAT. On the math, you have fewer word problems. Okay. And the built-in graphic calculator is there to help you all out. So that's really going to, be convenient. There is ease of use. Of course, you need to know how to use the graphic calculator too. All right. I think gradually
Right.
we will be speaking more of the changes. Yes, Seema.
Right. So what I gather is, what I understand is there's a lot of change in the structure itself. So, starting off with math, Mantu, can you shed some light on what the quant structure or the math structure would be for the digital SAT?
Yes, the math structure, as earlier we had two sections. This time again we have two sections, but here both the sections will have the calculator, right? So there are two stages of math. There are two models for math, right? Each module will have 22 questions and 35 minutes. Okay. So on overall, there are 44 questions, 70 minutes for math section, on an average 1.5 minutes per question. Okay. So it's going to be a bit of adaptive. We are going to talk about it, what adaptive means in the later part of the session. So this is it about the math.
Okay, so just throwing you this question from Vibha to you guys. Probably you'll answer this a little later as well, but she asked how much time is required to prepare for the SAT. I think now it would be the digital SAT, right?
Yes.
So do we want to kind of would you be answering this later, or would you want to kind of give her a quick tip right now?
We could say that, you would require at least 3 months time, 2 to 3 months time, because, you need to understand how the test goes because it's totally a different experience. And then you need to practice on the strategies, techniques also in order to show that, great improvement on the score. So I would suggest a minimum of 2 months to a maximum of 3 months should suffice for, appearing for you.
I think that would answer a question because she wants to appear for the digital SAT in March. So
exactly.
Months, approximately 2 months, Vibha.
Yes.
So Mantu has given us an insight into how the math section is structured. Raji, how about the verbal section?
Okay, so with the verbal section too, there, as I told you, there's the one verbal section which is called the reading writing section, and it is a two-stage adaptive test too. And as Mantu said, it's going to be, we're going to explain how the adaptiveness is in a while. The first module of the verbal has 25 questions which are operational. And what we mean by operational is that these count towards the score. All right. And it has 2 pre-test questions which do not count towards the score. And again, this suspense will be unraveled in a bit. Similarly, your second module also will have 25 operational questions and 2 pre-test questions. That means totally you are going to have 54 questions to answer in 64 minutes. So for the first module separately, you have 32 minutes, and for the second, you again have a 32 minutes, which means overall per question, you just have 1 minute, 19 seconds, which is tough time. All right. Yeah.
That looks, quite less when we think about our students. You were pretty elusive when you talked about the pre-test questions. I mean, does that mean there are some questions which is going to be a part of the section which are not going to be counted towards the score, and some which are going to be counted towards the score? How does it really work?
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head, Seema. It is that these 2 questions are not going to be identifiable at all by the student. They're just going to get a volley of 27 questions, and anywhere down that, they are going to be asked 2 questions, which they won't know are pre-test questions. They all the same have to answer them, and it won't count. That's the saddest part. All right. And you have 2 such questions in the first module and 2 in the second module also. Now, why would they do this is a story that needs to be said, but not actually, facilitating towards writing the SAT, of course. So College Board would want, to have a collection of questions in their database by which they would be able to segregate questions into, is this easy, is this medium, is this a difficult one? So as per the way the students answer these pre-test questions is how they are able to adjudge whether this question can be put in an easy level, a medium level, or a hard level. That's the sole idea for bringing in the pre-test question.
Right. So what I understand is, let's say if I'm talking about 25 questions and 2 questions in a section, they'd actually have 27 questions, and students will not be able to understand which 2 of those questions are actually, experimental in nature.
Yes. So out of the 27, they will be scored only on 25 questions, and they won't know which of the 25. All right. Yeah.
Right. So open question to you. I have, I think, especially for Raji, because Shreya says, I'm too weak in English. So still, is it possible to score 800 in, I would say, again, everybody's saying SAT, but now it's digital SAT within 2 months. 800, well, she wants a perfect score in 2 months.
Okay. So that's going to be a little difficult to say that, you need a perfect score in 2 months. That depends on how you work. Actually, all right, you have to be devoted only for the digital SAT if at all you have that as your target. All right, because I mean, just attending courses will not do. You obviously have to be able to take these mock tests and see to it that you're able to apply the strategies in the correct manner and crack most of the questions. All right, so it depends on the individual. All right.
Right. So this is an open question to both of you, because I have another Ronav. I hope I'm saying the name right. Which practice materials should we use to prepare for the digital SAT? Will Princeton Review be writing and publishing books before the March SAT? Well, Ronav, you asked the perfect question, because we are the, I would say, I've already mentioned it earlier, the first test prep in the entire world to actually devise the content. And you're looking at people who have been able to actually build the content. So Mantu or Raji, or either of you can actually answer this question.
Actually, I mean, needless to say, Manya, the Princeton Review rocks when it comes to strategizing and working for the SAT. And let me tell you here, and I'm not boasting, that actually in the past till now, we have had 42% of our students scoring, near to 93 percentile. 93 percentile, all right, 93rd percentile, I'm sorry, which means we are already on an average score of around about 1400 always. Okay. And what more, can be said that it's only the research done by the Princeton Review which has actually taken the students to this level. So pan India, if we are the ones who are at a rocking 93rd percentile, it's no jokes. All right.
So I think it's better to always better to show it rather than talking
Right,
about it, right?
right. Okay, so I just want to kind of like cut you there.
Right.
So we've been talking at length about multi-stage. I mean, like there's this online test or digital test, and a lot of things going on there, right? But what does it mean for student? Kind of like going from a linear test to a multi-stage adaptive test. How are things going to change?
All right. So this is where I said I will be explaining about the adaptive. Exactly. So Vibha, your question came at the right time that, we spend more time on how adaptive would work. All right. Of course, the detailed explanation will be given by Mantu later on. But yes, I will be pleased to tell you about how this, multi-stage adaptive works. So in the beginning, in the first module that attempt, you are going to be given a mixed bag. All right. And what I mean by mixed bag is that you are given a almost equal proportion of easy, medium, hard questions. And based on your performance on this first module, you are, given another module, which will be based on how well you have answered the questions in the first module. Now, this again depends on, have you been able to answer more of easy questions, more of medium questions, and more of difficult questions. All right. So if on the whole, the easy questions are what you've been able to answer, and the medium and harder ones have been, tough to attempt and get right, then obviously your second module will not be of a very difficult level. But if on the other hand, your first module, you have, out of the 27, say, you have been able to score 17 to 18 of them right, then probably your second module is going to take you to a, medium to harder level. So that's how it works. So what multi-stage adaptive exactly means is the way you perform in the first module is what is the basis for the question level in the second module. So the harder your questions get in the second module, the better for you, because your score will depend on how did your second module happen to be. Was it, more easy questions in the second module, or was it medium to hard, or was it all hard? Okay, so the first module has to be attempted with great caution for you to be able to get to a respectable level, I would say, in the second module. All right.
And I
So
think, sorry,
yeah.
Raji, you're saying.
Okay, so Vibha again asked if I have answered more of medium level, then will all the questions on module T2 be of easy medium level? No.
So yeah.
No, not exactly.
Raji, I was about to tell us that.
Yes, Seema.
So meanwhile, Seema is coming back.
Mantu actually takes
some
us
internet
back,
issue.
Sorry.
Yeah, can I come in on that adaptive modules?
Sure.
So for math part also, it's adaptive, right? But the math questions are ordered in rough order of difficulty. The first question going to be the easiest, and the last question going to be the hardest in each module, right? Later on, the next one is going to be harder. Harder doesn't mean all questions are hard, right? There are still some number of questions easy, some number of questions medium. The number of hard questions will increase in the second module, but still there are different difficulty level questions, and it's going to be arranged in order, first being the easiest and last being the hardest. Okay.
Yeah, so to answer your question of will it not be the same set of questions of each level for all students, the first module is such wherein you will be given a distributed, not very equally, but proportionate level each of easy, medium, and hard. And basis how you answer those questions is how your second module will take a turn. All right, your second module need not exactly be of the same type again. You will have more of medium or more of hard or more of easy, depending on how you performed in the first module. All right. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I think that's a lot regarding the way the exam is shaped up, and I don't think anybody could have given such detailed answers as you, Mantu and Raji, have given about the multi-stage adaptive. I know that you have taken all the mock tests as well, which are provided by the college board. So this, you know it in and out. Um, you know, Besides the entire makeup of the test itself, the skills and the kind of content areas that are actually tested on the digital SAT, how do they vary from its predecessor? Right now, what is actually going to get tested? Like, what are the students going to get tested on?
So, Mantu, would you want to start on that first?
Yeah. So for maths part, if I talk about math mates, going to be very similar. Earlier also we had algebra. This time also we have algebra. Then we have advanced math, problem solving and data analysis, and then we have geometry and trigonometry. Now, if I talk about the variation of these topics, so algebra will contribute almost 35%. So number of questions you can expect in total 13 to 15 questions. Advanced math again going to be 13 to 15 questions, almost similar percentage of algebra. Now, problem solving and data analysis will be almost 15%, which is 5 to 7 questions. And geometry and trigonometry again going to be 15% approximately, 5 to 7 questions in total, combine both the modules. Algebra is very common. We learn their linear equations in one variable, two variable linear functions, all those topics. Then if I come to advanced math, we have nonlinear functions, we have nonlinear equations, we have ratio, proportions. If I come to that problem solving and data analysis, you'll have questions from statistics, scattered plot, inference question from sample statistics, evaluating statistical claims, some observations, some experimental questions will be tested on problem solving and data analysis. Again, geometry and trigonometry is very common. In geometry, you're going to talk about algebra, volume of some shapes, then lines and angles, right angle triangle, normal triangles, and of course the trigonometry on right angle triangles and the circles. These are the things. The things that is removed is complex number. The imaginary number is not in picture now. Okay, that's about math. If we illustrate it a little better way, so there are two types of question now. Earlier also we had two types of question. So there are MCQ questions, multiple choice questions. Earlier also, this time also, earlier also we had 4 options. This time also we have 4 options, but out of 4, 1 option is correct. Now, what is changed this time is a bit in your grading questions that we used to call, but now it's student produced responses. Okay, so almost 25% question will be student produced responses, 75% question will be MCQ questions with 1 option correct. Now, if I talk about word problems, so earlier we used to have a lot of word problem questions, but this time it is restricted till 30%, and word problems also cannot have more than 50 words, that as per the college board. So almost 30% word problem, which is like in context question. It might be from science, social studies, or some real world scenarios where you can need to use your mathematical skill, right? 70% question will be direct, as direct question from the topic we have just listed. If I talk about statistical analysis, so you're going to get some graphs from functions, dot plots, scatter plot, bar graph, histogram. So all those figures might be tested. Yes. Now, yes. Now we have something called student produced responses. A bit of change you can see here. Earlier we cannot put a negative a number in our grading question, but this time we can, right? So this time we can put a negative number. A bit challenging is going to be, because if you have the same value but answer is negative, you have just put positive, it's going to be wrong. Now, so the answer, suppose you have got 3.5, Acceptable answers are 3.5 you can put, or 3.50, or 7/2. You cannot write in mixed fraction like 3.5, right? That is incorrect. If you have to write a fractional thing, 2/3 it's coming. So either you can write 2/3, or you have to write 0.666. All 5 boxes should be filled, or 0.6667 you can write, or 0.666 you can write, or 0.667 you can write. But you cannot write just 0.66, or you cannot write 0.6 or 0.66 or 0.67 or 0.67. So these are unacceptable answers. 1/3, suppose you're getting -1/3. So again, if you're writing just 1/3, it's going to be wrong. You have to put negative, right? And again, you cannot write just -0.33, right? You have to put 0.333. You have to write, fill in all the boxes. So negative 1 box, and then decimal 1 box, and then you have to have 4 threes to fill in all the 6 boxes, right? So this is a bit change you can see in your student produced responses, right? Can we go ahead?
Right.
Yeah, and now there is no extraneous solution data in the question. Like they'll not talk a lot about other things. They'll be directing questions, right? So if they have to ask certain things, they cannot create a story about it. Okay, so the question has to be very straightforward, right? Because word limitations is given by College Board is 50 words. The new type of question you can see in your SAT test, digital SAT test, is data sufficiency type question. In a while, I'm going to show you what do I mean by data sufficiency questions, right? And then we'll see how do we approach data sufficiency questions. All right. So as I told you, student produced responses includes negative numbers also, and use of calculator is permitted throughout the math section, right? We are going to talk about also how the calculator uses.
Right.
Yes.
Mantu, that is quite elaborate, I have to say, quite detailed. And I can see that there are some, it looks small, but very important changes. I mean, in the way that certain answers are actually input, and, certain way that, some questions would have to be approached. That would definitely come into play. Rajiv, what about the verbal bit? I mean, are there similar changes, or, what kind of content areas are really addressed right now in the digital SAT?
Okay, so I mean, I won't say it's similar, but yes, the way the entire module is structured is different, because you can see, I mean, as I told you, the entire section is called a reading writing, but even then, we will be able to understand which questions fall under a reading category and which actually come under a writing category. So when I say writing, usually this means, to do with the grammar, or, the editing bit to improvise the writing. Whereas the reading bit is just asking of comprehending a passage and answering a question. That's the major difference between a reading type of question and a writing type of question. All right. So under the reading, you usually have a question type called craft and structure, which is to do with the way a passage is structured, and the why type of questions will be asked, which are approximately 28%. All right. So 13 to 15 questions will be from the craft and structure type. Information and ideas. This is another type of questions wherein just, I would say, retrieving information from a passage is all that is asked. And of course, the main idea type of questions are asked, which you just have to read the passage and understand to answer. So approximately 26% of the total verbal section comprises such questions, which are 12 to 14 approximately. Now, when it comes to writing, you have it divided into two types. One is the standard English conventions. So here is where the proper grammar gets tested, wherein you'll have to know certain rules of grammar, say about verbs or about pronouns, or say about modifiers. Now, these may seem very new to you all, but then it is the basic grammar that you require in standard English, all right, which gets tested. Approximately 26% of the questions on the verbal are to do with this, which are 11 to 15 questions. And expression of ideas comprises the remaining type of questions, which are approximately 20%. That means 8 to 12 questions on these. Now, expression of ideas questions are to do with questions that ask you about dual text, or they ask you about notes made by students and what has to be answered with the notes given for the research. All right. So the targeted benefits of understanding these types of questions is just that you have to still focus on the higher order reading, writing, analysis, and reasoning. It's not that since you do not have huge passages that you forget how to read a passage and how to answer a question. So that still remains, the reading rigor still remains, and you still need to work within that 1 minute 19 seconds to be able to answer a question. So the skimming, scanning has to be efficient. All right. So you can move on to questions. You can navigate to questions that are easier for you, come back for questions that are more difficult. So that you will be able to do, which is a great benefit that you have. And of course, you will see when we start giving you some examples of, how to answer the questions, how the process of elimination works at its best. All right. All right. Yes, Seema, what's your next
Right.
question?
So, I mean, obviously that kind of like gives us a lot of information. You know what, as you were talking about these aspects, students were asking questions similar, bringing it back to this particular point itself. I mean, in terms of what exactly would they be tested in writing? I think you've answered a lot of.
Yeah, so the key points overall are that passages, of course, I've already mentioned, they are shorter. There is limited information to read, and out of those, that information only you're going to be asked questions. There are
Right.
some new question types introduced, which, are to do with supporting a hypothesis or a claim, or they might be extracts from poems, to
Right.
be answered about. And yes, of course, the table or chart illustrations still remain, but they are asked differently on the digital SAT. All right. Yeah.
Right. So when you actually talk about, let's say, where the test is actually being taken. So a lot of students have been asking this one specific question, like with respect to, let's say, calculator, how to actually use that, what tools are available, does the blue book work a certain way? Talking about blue book and other things, Mantu, care to shed some light on exactly what the platform is and what are the tools that the students will get the platform on the platform, and how they can actually use it, or what challenges they'll face?
Yes. So where to take the test? Test has to be taken at the centers only. You cannot take it from home. Now coming back to what platform we are going to use, it's going to be Blue Book. So if you are using your own, laptop or any other system, you have to install that Blue Book. The instruction will be given from the College Board. Okay, so you have to pre-install it and then you have to go to the center. Okay. Now there are so many online tools given by the College Board in the Blue Book, right? So you have options of answer choice eliminator. You have highlighter, which can be used to mark the keynotes. You have annotation emphasize on words or phrases. You have flag. You can flag the questions. You can anytime come back to the questions which you wanted to review. So you can use flag for those questions. Then you have options of masking your timer, so you cannot see the timer. Suppose this certain student appeared from the timer, you can mask your timer, right?
Right.
Then you have reader window, so you can zoom in and zoom out if you find that something is not clearly visible, right? And then you have the reference sheet given. Also you can have the access. Suppose there are certain formulas given by the College Board, you can use that reference sheet for that. Okay, and of course you'll have the calculator. One is online calculator, and you can also have your pre-approved by College Board. There are certain models of calculator, you can also carry those with along with you, right?
Right.
So clearly specifying you can have Desmos calculator online. So the Desmos calculator will be visible to you when you use it online. Okay, so you can see there are so many tools available, but if you don't have a good practice of using tools, again you're going to waste a lot of time in the examination, right? Also, which tools to use at what time? Do we really need all the time to use the calculator or these highlighters or annotations? That also needs to taken care that when do we use it and when not, right?
So, I
So
mean, as I think as Vibha just asked Mantu that, are we allowed to use paper for the calculations? And very well said by you that you should probably use the physical scratch paper too. Am I right, Mantu?
yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
Right. I
Okay.
think a lot of students have been asking this particular questions. I mean, a chat is buzzing with the questions with respect to this, as well as to, can you still use a scratch paper? Can we write on the, like, do the calculations? Also, once, one of our participants have asked, we have only graphing calculator on the screen. Is that the only option available to us?
So there you can also use normal calculations. Okay,
Mm.
not only graphing is allowed, you can also add, multiply, divide. All those things are also possible there. So again, need to see that how to use that. So you need to learn through the course.
Right. Um, so, one of the best things we as Manya, the Princeton Review, have is a very strong foundation in the SAT. I mean, we have a very strong legacy. I mean, if you just take Princeton Review itself, that we're talking about like 41 plus years of research that has gone into, how these standardized tests work and how the students can actually master those questions using these very unique approaches, very, they're proprietary and very unique and approaches that really work and give outcomes to the students. um so I mean, how how do you think that we have advanced in the same manner with the digital SAT?
Okay. So, as far as Mantu said, about the tools that are there on digital SAT, I would say just understanding the tools will not do, Seema. You
Right.
have to know when to use it and how effectively to use the tools to be able to come to a right answer. Yes,
Mhm.
of course, for the math, you cannot afford, I would say, neglecting the use of the physical scratch paper. That's a must because all the calculations that you need to do sometimes are to be done on a physical scratch paper. I won't say that works at its best, when it comes to the verbal, because
Right.
since you have short passages and, a question that's going to be surmised from what information is given in the passage only. So many times you will not require to actually do, a writing on the scratch paper for the verbal. But yes, sometimes questions do demand, that you already have a summary of what you read, because when it comes to dual text, that's what happens, and probably I will show you how that will help. So some questions do need the scratch paper, and for the process of elimination, of course, you can use the annotation tools itself. So I mean, that's why I said effective use of tools is what's going to get us there. So
Right.
following approaches and strategies, that's been that legacy that you talked about, Seema.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what has got us so far. And we've got so many students aced to, such a percentile. And we, are definitely, certainly sure that we are going to make that mark
Yeah,
even.
I know. I mean, I've no doubt that we are always going to come
Yeah.
out
So, the
as
approach
a first in
wonders. Yeah.
every situation.
Yes.
But so, but then in terms of approaches, like, bringing it back to that specific question, how have we actually adapted? Like, Mantu, would you like to kind of like shed some light into that?
Yes. So why don't we take some questions and we show that how do we use strategy in class,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So
So, okay, I'm going to let you share. I'm going to stop my share so that you can actually share the questions.
sure.
Yeah.
So let's see digital SAT question. So all of you, I'll give you a minute time. I'm expecting answers in the chat box for this question. So we're going to learn a strategy. Let's see how do we solve such questions very quickly.
Come on, time is ticking.
Yes. I'm looking at the window, the chat window that.
And Seema, you better keep track of 1 minute. Okay, we already have answers.
I can see Atul say A, Vedvani say A, Mohammed say A. Everybody says A.
Okay, so let's see how do we solve it. So if you go with traditional way of solving this question, you're going to use a long division method, right? So instead of doing that, the question says the expression above can be rewritten as which of the following. This question comes under advanced math. So instead of doing that long division method, which kills our time, we have a variable k here. Why can't we use a simple number instead of working with the variable in the question? So instead of solving the question with variable, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill this variable with a number. Okay, so let's say k equals 1. So if I put k equals 1 in the given equation, then my equation becomes 6 into 1 square, which is 6, plus 11 into 1, which is 11, and 3k becomes 3, plus 1 becomes 4. So this becomes 17 over 4, right? Now, this is the answer to the question. Now let's see the options. Option C and D is not fractional. Straight away to elimination, right? And this 17 by 4 is going to be greater than 4 because 17, 4 into 4 is 16. 17 is greater than 16, so it's going to be greater than 4. The option B is 2 into 1, 2 minus something. So this is going to be less than 2. So we can eliminate this option as well. Why? Because this is going to be less than 2, 2 minus. So the only option remaining is A. So most of you are correct. Let's try this question.
Okay, so kudos to you all, but wonder, did you all use strategies? All right.
Yeah, I mean, we have like math aces in this.
Yeah. So I can see 800s are going to come. No, Mantu, we're going to get them 800s. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So have you given them time,
same
Mantu?
time, 1 minute, expecting answers.
Okay. Where's everybody? I think everybody's calculating.
Yeah. It seems huge.
Are people still there, or is everybody kind of like calculating already? So what's the answer, guys?
Oh, I can see
wait,
some
one
answers.
is-
Vedvani has given a C. Okay. Some more, some more. Oh.
Don't copy.
See again, see
Very
again.
good. Expecting more.
All right. I think time is up, no, Mantu?
Yes, let's do it. So here, if you see, if I divide any number, say if I, just a second. Suppose if I want to divide x square plus 1 by x. And if I try to do long division method, what process we follow? What process we follow? We first try to divide this x square by this x to get the first quotient, right? So here we get x square, right? And we can cancel it. Here the remainder is 1. So the same thing can be rewritten as the quotient, right, which is x plus the remainder by the divisor, right? Means how we got this x? By dividing the leading term of the numerator by the leading term of the denominator. In the same way, if you look at this fraction is being divided by the numerator is being divided by cb minus 1. So if I divide the leading term of numerator, which is negative 16b square, with the leading term of the denominator, what is leading term of the denominator? cb, right? I should get the leading term or the first term in the solution, right? As we have got x, right? So here we have got minus 4b. So this equals minus 4b. Now I can cancel this by b, and this b can be cancelled. So c equals negative 16 by negative 4, which is nothing but 4. So most of you again are correct. But you see, the way you approach generally is going to be a long division method way. Like you will divide this whole by this whole, which is going to kill a lot of time. Instead, just take the first leading number from the numerator, first leading number from the denominator, and then you get the first number in the quotient. Right? This is how you do it. Over to you, Rajima.
Okay.
So, Raji, what kind of mistakes and blunders are the students bound to jump into for the verbal pet in the digital SAT?
Yep, I'm going to show that now. Just a moment. All right. Can you all see the question, people?
Yes.
Okay. So your 1 minute starts now. So if this is a question that you're asked, let's see how many are able to kill it in that 1 minute. Your time starts now.
There's B from Krishna.
Any more?
Okay, there's C from Vedvani. There's Gurneer who says B. Arushi says D. Vibha says B. Vanshika says C. So we have B, C.
So we have multiple answers when it comes to the verbal. Okay. So the Seema has the 1 minute, crossed. I bet it has, right?
It has.
Okay. So let's see. I mean, can you see how small or short this question looks, So, I mean, this looks as if, oh my God, this is such a simple question. But yet I got 4 different answers. So let's see where's the strategy out here. All right. So the question asks out here that which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English, which means this is to do with a grammar question. Okay. So now when we read the sentence, we get to see that a group of activists in Cleveland, however, blank, and then it says an energy source that comes from fast running water. All right. So just a moment, people. Just give me a 2 minutes. All right. My charger was just going off. Luckily, I turned it on. Okay. Yes. So where is the hint to this question is, people, that part that you have just after the blank, an energy source that comes from fast running water, which means the comma after is going to describe an energy source. So what can we actually eliminate the moment we know we need an energy source? Okay, so can you see the first choice ends in city? So does the third choice. So that can be eliminated at once because the city cannot be an energy source at all. All right. Now we have a hydropower investment versus hydropower itself. So which is going to be the source, the energy source, the investment or the power itself, people? All right. So whoever got to that D wins. All right. So until you know what to read, when to read, how to read, you're not going to be able to ace the question. All
Vibha
right.
says hydropower.
Okay. Pardon?
Vibha says hydropower.
Ah, yes. So I think only two odd people got to the D as their answer. So kudos to them. But the others, I think now you've understood what was the strategy exactly out here. So let's see yet another question, people. Just a moment.
Raja, would you be able to kind of like put it on show?
Isn't it on show?
No, not at the moment.
You can put it on slide so.
Yeah, just a moment. Sorry for that.
Maybe you could just hit an F5. That works.
Yes.
Wonder.
I think that now has it come on slideshow?
Yes.
Oh, yes, it has.
Okay. Thank you for that, Seema. And sorry, people. Okay, here comes your next question. And now I think you should be able to do justice. Let's get some correct answers. Come on, your time starts now.
As Raji says, the clock is ticking.
And so will it tick in your actual digital SAT, people.
You're putting a lot of pressure now. Vibha says B.
Okay, that was fast. Let's have some more answers.
A. Arushi says A.
Mhm.
Nehit says A. Vedvani says A. Atul says A.
All right. So,
C.
Mantu, have we reached the 1 minute?
Mohammed says
Yes.
A. Vika says A. So now we have A, C, C, A.
Okay, so I think there are lots, that are coming up with the A as the answer. So let's see exactly what makes them say A. So people, if you look at A, and since this is the starting of the sentence also, it says after singing for multiple hours. So it has a comma after that, if you can see, which means who is going to be singing is the whole band. Okay, but what does the rest of the sentence say? The band queen stopped touring so this Freddie could rest his voice, which means who was the one who was singing, people? Was it the band queen who was singing or was it Freddie who was singing? So have you all got where the trap was? All right. So it can't be the band queen. Okay. Now B says 3 weeks of singing for multiple hours a night. Again, the band queen. So it can't be the band queen. C, having sung is again going to go to band queen. And hence, whoever got D have won. Because its lead singer had been singing for multiple hours a night for 3 weeks, band queen stopped touring. So, Freddie. So, which means we have brought in something to point to that lead singer, Freddie, which is what is wanted to keep the meaning of the sentence. All right. So, have you understood how to work this, people? We have to see the sentence. We have to look at the choices. We have to see what's coming after the comma. We've got to see what's before the comma. So many things to see. And it's strategy all the way. All right.
So Raji,
Okay.
I think the way a lot of students have answered the or reasoned about their answers has been by quoting a lot of grammar rules. Is it 100% essential for them to be, dead focused on grammar rule to really get to the answers? Or,
Okay. So I agree. Yes, a certain bit of grammar rule, adhering to grammar rules is necessary, but you ought to even give meaning to that sentence. All right. So conforming to the conventions of standard English is not all to do with just the grammar rules. It should convey, the sentence should convey the meaning. And obviously, this is to do with the modifiers more, The moment we know what exactly is being described in the sentence is when we can do this question correctly. So
Right.
it's to do with the grammar. It's to do with what meaning is actually conveyed when you read the sentence. All right. So let's go in for yet another question. So Seema, do I have the time or should we?
We'll probably kind of have to.
Yeah. So I think we can give it for the later. Let's go ahead with what you have, Seema. Yes, please.
Right. So I'm just going to have to stop asking you to share so that I can bring back the thing. Perfect. So while I'm doing that, I wanted to kind of, this is a question that popped up on my head, and I'm sure, after you've done the questions and on a lot of students' minds, do shorter questions mean that the test is getting easier?
Not really. If we have shorter questions, it means we have limited informations given, and we have to work with limited informations. Like you see this question. So as I also told you that the question types also changing, though it's shorter, but it might be trickier. So shorter question generally becomes more trickier than the problem with a lot of informations, right? So if you see the earlier type of question, you can see there's two statements. Statement one, the measure of angle R is 45, and statement two is ST equals 60, and there are four options: first only, second only. So this type of questions we used to had, but the same question has taken this kind of form. You see, the similar question is there, two statements are there, and the question says statement one, the first is sufficient, but second is not. The second is sufficient, first is not. Both are sufficient, or both are not sufficient. So the similar question has been converted into this form. So shorter question doesn't really mean that it's simple or easy, right? If you go to the next question, you see the first type of question. Here you can see on the left hand side of your screen. This used to be a lot of data, you see, but now they have reduced the data to a certain limit, right? It's not going to be beyond 50 words, but doesn't mean that question has become really simple, right? So you can see the comparison. Over to you, Raji ma'am. You would like to add anything?
Yeah, I would probably want to show a very small question. Yes, Seema, can I share my screen?
Sure, for
just
sure.
For a moment. Yeah,
just a moment. Yeah, I'm just stopping the share. You can share.
Yes. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So people, you can see, the question is just a one-liner, and what is given to us is also just a two-liner. I mean, this seems as if, this can be answered. But the moment you all start reading the question is when you all understand that this is talking about a poem. And the earlier SAT did have nothing to do with poems. All right. So
yes, of course.
And when we read this question, the fire worshippers, we start thinking, oh my God, I don't know this poem. How am I able to how will I answer the question? But you have to read to understand what exactly is this guy asking us. All right. So reading the question is what is important. So which quotation from fire worshippers? Which means, people, where are the quotations? Do you need them by rote? No. the quotations are right in front of you, A, B, C, or D. Okay, and what we need to do is most effectively illustrate the claim. So where do you think is the claim? Right above. So see, it's a very easy question, but looking at the poem, I mean, the word poem itself is going to give you the jitters. All right. So all I need to see is what does the claim suggest? Okay. So I have to just describe the poet's overt happiness followed by ponderous despair. Now, if vocabulary becomes tough, then I bet you'll have to just, give a guess and move on. But if you do know what is happiness and you do know what is despair, this is going to be a cakewalk. All right. Because all you have to do is look at the answer choices and see which of these have happiness followed by despair. So if you look at the first answer choice, how sweetly said the trembling maid of her own gentle voice, afraid. Now, is that anything to do with happiness, people? The very first part, if you see, you're going to say no to this answer. Am I right? All right. So A is gone. Look at B. Far from the cruel and the cold, where the bright eyes of angels only. I mean, I don't see happiness anywhere. So although the latter part is saying a paradise so pure and lonely, and maybe the lonely bit tells you it's despair, no, but I need happiness too. So B is gone. C says, now too, the joy, most like divine. Now I have joy. So let's read further. Of all I ever dreamt or knew, which is moving on to say overt happiness, to see thee, hear thee, and call thee mine. Oh, misery, must I lose that too? Doesn't this show despair, people? So this is going to be a keeper, yeah? But when you look at D, I never nursed a dear gazelle to glad me with its soft black eye. The word glad might probably, give you trouble, but is that actually showing happiness in any way? But when it came to know me well and love me, it was sure to die. This might be misery, but I don't have overt happiness, ponderous despair. So there you go. C is the most apt choice. So it wasn't all that difficult once you knew what exactly the question was asking you. So don't get, I would say, intimidated by how the question is or what the question is about. Understanding the question, reading answer choices is a must. All right. Yes, Seema.
There's a quick question from Arushi. She asked, why are obliques present in the answer choices?
That's just to tell you that one line of the poem is over, my dear. All right. So that's the end of the first line, and then the second line, third line, and the fourth line. All right. Okay. So, earlier to this, I think someone had asked, that how can you start a sentence with the because? So
yeah,
SAT actually does not, I would say prohibit using the because and starting a sentence.
I think it's a very conventional idea as well.
Yes. So the SAT doesn't go to, the English class grammar. It has its own conventions, and that's what we need to keep in mind. All right. Yes, Seema.
So I'm just sharing back again.
Yes. Stop sharing.
Okay. No, I'm good. I've already started sharing. So one of the things, I mean, we've talked about literally everything that we want to and have to talk about the digital SAT. There's one thing that we have not really touched upon yet, which is the scoring pattern itself.
Okay, so, Seema, could you go to slideshow? Are you?
Yeah, right now I am.
Yes, great. Yeah.
So Mantu, I want to kind of like ask you, how does the scoring work on the digital SAT? I mean, associating it with the multi-stage bit to now,
right?
It's still out of 1600. So how does it work? Sorry, yeah.
Yes, so we already know that we have adaptive modules now. If you work very good on the module 1, you're going to get a harder module. And if you're working it's a medium, you're going to get a medium section. But now let's talk about the scoring pattern, how actually the scoring is working, how the scoring algorithm of College Board working. So I've taken a hypothetical situation. So say I have module 1. Module 1 has mix of easy, medium, and hard. So say I have 6 easy questions and 10 medium questions and 6 hard questions. Say if I'm getting 0 to 7 questions correct, right? So the module 1 score is kind of, we have got 7 questions correct, so score is 7. So number of questions correct in module 2, suppose, is going to be 20, right? So the total, say if I talk about module 2, so if you got 7 questions correct, module 2 is going to be easier, right? So easy means, easy doesn't mean you'll not have hard questions. Okay, so this time we see earlier module 1 has 6 easy questions. Now this time I have 10 easy questions.
Right.
Correct? Then earlier we had 10 medium question. I have just 6 medium question and 6 hard questions. Right? So the easy question section mean that I have number of easy questions increased, medium and hard question has decreased, right? So say the total score we are going to get is 16, and the maximum raw score you can get is 23 if you're moving from easy section to a mixed bag question to a easy section. The maximum raw score you can have is 23. So if you've just got 16 raw score, right? So your scoring is going to be 510 out of 200 to 800. Now, if I see the second scenario where you have done a medium kind of thing, you have got 18 to 15 questions correct. The next section is going to be medium. Medium means the number of medium questions will be a little more, right? Or the harder questions will be less. So you see, the first section was medium, 6 easy, 10 medium, 6 hard. Section B is also medium, 6 easy, 10 medium, and 6 hard. And you have got a total 20 score, but maximum you can score 35 as a raw score, right? So if you're going from medium to medium, the maximum score you can have is 35, and your score is going to be 680, right? Now, if I see the second situation is, suppose first section is medium, 6 easy, 10 medium, and 6 hard. Next is going to be harder if you have got 16 to 20 questions correct. Okay, so hard means again the number of hard questions increases, right? So 6 easy, 6 medium, and 10 hard questions, right? And your raw score is going to be, if you get 20 questions correct, right, your raw score is going to be 24. The maximum raw score going to be 44. In that case, you can score 800 out of 800. So the possibility of getting 800 out of 800 is only when you get a harder section, not a medium or an easy section as a second section.
Wow. Okay.
Right? This is how the algorithm works.
Wow, so I think now everyone is going to get angry because many were asking, can I get an 800? All right. So for the 800, you really have to work and burn the midnight oil. Okay. So go for it, people. Yes.
So, that was quite detailed, Mantu. I mean, I think it, okay. So based on that, Krishna asked, how do we come to know if we got a harder section? Oh, that's a very subjective question. Do you want to answer that, Mantu?
So if your first section, suppose you are solving a math section and you have got to know that, wow, I have done pretty good on the first module. So second module, see, initially you will not feel the second module initial questions, as I told, it's arranged in order, right? Easiest to hardest. So initial part of the section 2 may not be able to recognize whether I have got a harder section or not, because the arrangement of difficulty level is there. But once you go towards the end of the second section, you find harder questions, and then you realize, oh my god, I've got harder section. So the suggestion is, when you move to the second section, okay, don't be overwhelmed that, oh wow, the second section is very easy, and don't waste your time in the initial 10 questions, right? So you have to be proper paced, right? And as you know that you can roam around all questions, all 22 questions in a section. So you have to, keep one eye on your pacing, that initial questions which I can do right, you do it right. If you are finding certain questions hard, you flag it, you come back, and then do those questions. Okay, because latter questions might be difficult, might be time killing. Okay.
So on a final note, my question to you both is, besides all of the things we've discussed, what's like, key things to notice or keep in mind when the students think about starting their preparation, when they're taking the digital SAT, pretty much everything that, they need to kind of keep in focus.
Yeah. So, Mantu, if I may, I'll just give a few points and then you can probably add on to it. So I would suggest that they already have hang of, how the test is. So, I mean, I would rather that, they keep that in mind, that you should be navigating two questions that you can answer so that, time is ticking and managing time is of utmost significance. So the first module that they see, they ought to work in such a way that they keep skipping often to answer questions that they know faster, but they should take care not to make any careless mistakes while doing so, because if they make mistakes in the easy questions, then it's going to take a toll on the second section and they might not be able to reach a more difficult section. All right. So that is a must, navigating effectively. All right. And the second thing, the moment they start navigating, they will know that that's taking care of the time. The balance of time, the pacing of the test is of utmost importance. See, on the verbal, at least, I know for sure you just have a 1 minute and 20 seconds to answer a question. So those questions can range from dual text to poems, to passages, to graphs, to any bit. So, I mean, whatever be the question type, you're going to get only that 1 minute. So you have to see that you pace well in the test, because you wouldn't want to, give blank answers. So there also, Mantu, I think you would like to say out here, what happens if they do get that killer question? So please go ahead.
Yeah. So again, I'll focus on the important part. Your math section is going to be arranged in rough order of difficulty. So when you move to second module, you have to be very careful about the pacing, because as a test taker, you never know that what's coming in future, right? So see, you have just 1.59 minutes per question, and suppose you're getting a time killer question towards the end and you've exhausted all the time before for the initial questions, initial 10 to 15 questions, so you will be in panic. So to manage those time and to manage those pacing, you need to have certain strategy in place, right? You should have certain techniques that, suppose in the future questions, you're very pretty much sure that I have the techniques in place, I have the strategy in place. How do I pace throughout the second module? Again, going to be really important to score 800 out of 800. So to learn the strategy, it's very much important that you have to, have proper coaching in place. You learn from the experts and you get the things done in right amount of time. Don't wait for the last minute. I have Jan in hand, I have Feb in hand, and then last minute we rush through. I don't know how do I pace when you start taking the mock test. So you have time, you have things to decide. Okay, so my suggestion is second module is going to be literally critical to score 800 out of 800.
Right. Thank you. That brings us to the end of our session. Yeah, just quickly answering Krishna's, you don't have negative marking, but thank you, Raji, and thank you, Mantu, for making this session super interactive, and you've been patient enough to answer all the questions from the students also who've been throwing it at, who I have been taking from and throwing it at you in between the remaining discussion.
And I must say, we have these enthusiastic participants out here who've been really giving this volley of queries. And I can see that they are all in for, getting to know all about digital SAT. So I hope we've done great by answering your questions, people. So yes, the first thing to do is enroll and be there for the digital SAT come March 2023. Yes, Seema.
Right. And Mantu, thank you as well.
Thank you, Seema.
Thank you, Seema.
Right. So just for the students, now if you want to actually connect and actually learn more, so there's obviously a limited amount of information we are able to kind of like bring to you in a gap of 1.5 hours. But if you want to get more information, do reach out on the number below, or you can mail at care@maniagroup.com as well. Or we also have this option of booking a demo on a Mania website, where you can actually book a session demo with the trainers who would be actually teaching, and you'll get a sense of, you'll be able to actually go through the entire session and get a sense of exactly how and what we teach. So do connect, and thank you guys for being absolutely engaging and making it really interesting with all the queries that you have brought forth today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Seema. Thank you,
Thank you.
people. Have a
Bye.
great day.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
students. Thank you. See you in class. Bye.
All right, bye bye.